Where is everybody? For words. Simple, direct. But behind them lies a question so large, so profound, that it challenges the very core of our understanding of the universe. It was 1950 when Enrico Fermi asked this now famous question over lunch with colleagues at Los Alamos National Laboratory. The conversation turned to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. How many stars were out there? How many planets? How many chances for life to bloom? They joked about flying saucers and interstellar travel, but Fermi suddenly grew serious. If the universe is so old and so vast, if advanced civilizations have had millions or even billions of years to evolve, then where are they? No spacecraft, no signals, no artifacts, just silence. And thus, the Fermi paradox was born, the contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations and the total lack of evidence for them. It is a question not merely of science, but of perspective, of how we see ourselves against the infinite backdrop of the cosmos. To truly appreciate the Fermi paradox, we must first grasp the scale of the universe we inhabit, a scale that defies intuition and stretches imagination to its limits. Our home galaxy, the Milky Way, is a sprawling spiral 100,000 light-years across, containing upwards of 400 billion stars. That alone is staggering. But our galaxy is only one of what we now estimate to be over 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Each one, in turn, holds billions, sometimes trillions, of stars. And almost every one of those stars is likely to have planets. Recent observations from missions like Kepler and TESS suggest that planets are not rare cosmic accidents. They are common. In fact, many stars have multiple planets, and a surprising number exist in the so-called habitable zone, the narrow band around a star where conditions may support liquid water and possibly life. And life, once it begins, is tenacious. On Earth, life took hold almost as soon as conditions allowed. Microbes flourished in oceans, in rocks, in acidic springs, even in radioactive waste. If life can arise here, why not elsewhere? Multiply these probabilities across the stars, and you arrive at a stunning conclusion. The universe should be brimming with life, complex, intelligent, perhaps even interstellar life. So why does it feel so empty? Our expectations of contact are not unfounded. If a single civilization somewhere in the galaxy had developed spaceflight a few million years before us, a blink of an eye in cosmic terms, they could have already colonized or explored much of the galaxy. In fact, at sublight speeds, not even approaching the speed of light, it would take only about 5 to 50 million years to explore or settle the entire Milky Way. That sounds like a long time, but it's short compared to the age of the galaxy, over 13 billion years old. We assume that once intelligence emerges, so too does curiosity, the urge to expand, to build, to explore, to communicate. It's what we would do, what we are doing. Even now, with our still fragile technologies, we're sending probes beyond the solar system, beaming radio signals into the sky, searching for patterns in the cosmic noise. And yet, after decades of scanning the stars, we've found nothing. Not one confirmed signal, no alien probes, no Dyson spheres, no unmistakable signs of artificiality. It's as though the universe is playing a cruel joke, inviting us to wonder, to search, and then giving us nothing in return. One of the more hopeful interpretations of the Fermi paradox is that we may simply be early. Perhaps life is rare, and intelligent life even rarer. Maybe we are the vanguard, the first spark of intelligence to arise in this galaxy, or one of only a handful to survive long enough to ask the question, The universe may be vast and ancient, but the conditions for complex life could be more recent than we thought. Perhaps it took billions of years for galaxies to settle, for heavy elements to form, for stable planetary systems to emerge. In that case, life might only now be beginning to flourish. There's also the possibility that alien life is out there, but we're looking in the wrong way. Our searches are based on human technology, radio waves, optics, narrow electromagnetic frequencies. But we might be searching for fireworks, while the universe communicates with whispers. Civilizations could use encrypted quantum signals, or communicate through neutrinos, or even by modulating gravitational waves, methods we barely understand or cannot detect at all. In this view, we are like Neolithic people with drums, trying to hear satellite signals in the sky. Another fascinating idea is the zoo hypothesis, that alien civilizations are aware of us, but have chosen not to interact. Just as we avoid interfering with tribal cultures to preserve their development, advanced beings might avoid Earth to protect our natural evolution. From their perspective, Earth could be a research site, a living museum, or a protected ecosystem. Or worse, we could be irrelevant, too primitive, too noisy, not worth contacting. Perhaps they observe us, waiting for us to mature, ethically, technologically, spiritually, before making themselves known. They might fear the consequences of contact or abide by a code of non-interference. Or perhaps they tried. Maybe signals were sent long ago, but arrived during our dark ages, or before we invented radio. Maybe we missed them. Maybe they're still out there, recorded in data we haven't yet understood. But not all theories offer hope. Some cast a long, dark shadow over our future. Among them is the idea of the Great Filter. The Great Filter represents a stage in the development of intelligent life that is nearly impossible to cross. It could be in our past, the emergence of life from non-life, the leap from prokaryotes to eukaryotes, the evolution of intelligence itself. If so, we may already be a miracle. The filter is behind us, and the universe is silent because few others have passed through. But if the filter lies ahead, then it represents a barrier we have yet to face. A self-destructive phase that most or all civilizations encounter. Nuclear war, environmental catastrophe, artificial superintelligence, biotechnological disaster. The silence we hear might be the echo of civilizations that reached the edge of greatness and did not survive. Still, there is another possibility, one that forces us to turn inward. Perhaps the silence is not due to the rarity of life or the collapse of civilizations, but the limits of our own understanding. As humans, we are bounded by our biology. Our senses are limited. Our technology is young. Our models of intelligence, communication, and consciousness are based entirely on a single sample, ourselves. What if alien life doesn't think like we do? What if it doesn't build cities, or use language, or emit energy? What if it exists in forms completely unfamiliar? Clouds of gas, artificial intelligence swarms, networked consciousness woven into space-time itself. Could we even recognize such beings if they passed by? Or are we like ants at the base of a skyscraper, aware only of the ground beneath our feet, blind to the sky above? Despite the silence, we continue to search. We launch telescopes. We send probes. We listen, constantly, persistently, almost prayerfully, to the stars. But maybe the most profound aspect of the Fermi paradox isn't what it says about the universe, but what it reveals about us. Our desire to know if we are alone speaks to something deep and ancient. The longing for connection, the fear of isolation, the hope that we are part of something larger than ourselves. The paradox forces us to confront the fragility of our civilization, the urgency of our choices, and the rarity of conscious life. It invites us to take better care of our planet, to mature as a species, and to imagine a future where we, too, might reach the stars.